Welcome back to the end 2070. So I told you about the first experience I had here in Anguillara, Sabazia, in this beautiful town. The person was anonymous. I never met him. I listened to him on audio a few times during my 15-day stay. He sounded educated, speaks some English, probably in his late 30s or in his 40s. So that was a zero contact type of experience, which is the most common experience. Now, the second experience is the one that I'm having at the moment in a rental here as well. She's a 44-year-old lady. She's Italian. She's from the north of Italy, from the city of Torino. And she's a very hands-on type of person, very friendly, bubbly type of person. Talkative, speaks not very good English, but she understands what you say. And when I met her, with years, with experience, you suss out the people, you realize who has children and who doesn't. And from the onset, I realized that she's childless. Now, this is not uncommon in Italy. In Italy now, probably 60% of people under 50 are childless. And by that I don't only mean women, of course, I also mean men, because it does take two. It takes a man and a woman to bring life to the world. That's just how it is. But with her, I knew that she's childless, and now that I've stayed for almost 20 days, that realization has sunk in. So what do they do all day? What do these women do? And I'm talking about women typically in their 40s, 50s, and 60s in these old towns. Many of them are not indigenous. They came from other places and they chose to live here. And most of them are actually married, which a lot of people will find interesting, maybe strange. Is it strange? Yes, it is. In many ways it is strange. Because these people get married in their 30s or in their early 40s without the intention, or actually with the intention of not having children. It's not something that they try to have and they don't get. They marry to be respectable, to have a social life, to have a partner, not to feel bored, but they don't want children. And this really is at the heart of the crisis in Italy. And if we had to pinpoint one major cause, one major reason for this, what would it be? Most of you would say it's modernism. People are hedonistic. They think commercially. They want to enjoy life. They want to have a career. They don't have enough time. They're lazy, maybe, because modern life has made us lazy. Consumer society is anti-children in many ways. Now, all these factors have some truth in them. But if I had to give you one reason, which is a major reason why people don't have children in Europe generally, but in places like Italy especially, I would say the reason is the Catholic Church. Now, this might surprise a lot of you, because the Catholic Church is has traditionally been a family-based church, anti-contraception, strongly anti-abortion, the Mass, the festivals, everything is reared really around the family. Well, it used to be like that, but it hasn't been for at least the last 50 years. What you have today in Italy is you have a folkloristic type of church. So there's saint days, and a lot of beautiful historical towns like this has its patron saint, and the population will dress up or will do some things that they do every year, that they saw their parents do and their grandparents do, or they heard people do. and this is common. But this is not a religious life. Nobody fasts ever. Nobody really prays ever. And people don't really go to church very often. I mean, those who do are usually people who are 3 to 10 years away from death and decide to take on that path. But it's not common. And so, what is it about the Catholic Church or Catholicism that has made these countries that used to export a lot of people to the New World? If you think about Italian immigration to the US, Italian and Spanish and Portuguese immigration to Latin America, French immigration to Canada, these were all Catholic countries. In some ways they still are, at least officially. A lot of the people still claim to be Catholics, but they're not really. And so Catholicism has in its, or the modern version of Catholicism, brings about the death of countries. Now, is it better with non-Catholic Christian countries? Yes, it is, even if slightly so. You see, we have the Protestant ethic, the Calvinist ethos, or way of doing things, which are at the basis of our capitalistic system, which really now has transformed into a corporate capitalism, or a corporatism, which I'm not sure can actually be defined as capitalistic per se. And these societies do not face such a grave demographic decline and ultimate death. Now, when I say ultimate death, I do not mean that not a soul will exist here any longer post 2070. What I'm saying is that the demographic decline experienced in countries like Italy, Spain, Croatia, Malta, and I'm giving, Portugal, I'm giving examples of Catholic countries, but there are also non-Catholic countries that also have huge demographic problems. But what we see is that when countries that are Catholics, when they are next to non-Catholic countries, they fare worse than non-Catholic countries. For example, if we take France and Switzerland, Switzerland has on a whole performed a lot better demographically, and I'm not talking about immigration from other countries, I'm talking about the indigenous population. If you look at it in the context of 200, 250 years, the Swiss fared a lot better than the French did. If you look at Croatia and Serbia, or Croatia and Bosnia-Herzegovina, before the wars in Yugoslavia, you'll notice that Croatia demographically has experienced a much bigger decline than these countries did. And this started even before the wars and any economic hardships. And so yes, there is a problem. The problem is Catholicism. Now, a lot of these people don't even define themselves as Catholic or as Christians at all. So is Catholicism still a problem? Yes, it is. Why? It is still a problem because you cannot just erase 1,800 years or 1,700 years of tradition, of mindset in the space of 2 or 3 generations. It's just not possible. Now what we have today is a strange kind of inverse process whereby the masses, the ex-Catholic masses, the mostly childless or those who have very few children, typically one, masses that are now 75% of the population of countries like Italy, they have taken on the role of priests. Now, why do I say that? Priests in the past, they were very educated, arguably more so than they are today. And most of them didn't believe what they preached. Now, this is not only true of the past, it's also true of the present. Because Christianity, generally, and Catholicism particularly, is so absurd that anybody who studies deeply into philosophy, both East and West, or of East and West, will pretty soon realize that it doesn't make any sense. It is just out of this world, does not deal with realities on the ground. Now, the priests did not believe in what they preached, but they had to pretend that they do, because their entire lives was based on this grand lie that they were the tool of salvation, or a necessary tool of salvation. Here we have some more tourists coming in on this beautiful day. Again, the typical tourist that comes to Anguillara during the winter on weekdays. And so, what we had is the priests. I'll try to get away so you can hear me better. Just give me a few seconds. So basically the priests at the time, they lived a very unnatural lifestyle because they were childless and they had a lot of spare time. And this is also true of the vast majority of childless or having very few children Italians today. They basically have nothing to do. A lot of them buy their food in the supermarket, which is quite convenient. A lot of this food can be cooked quite easily because Italian food is not very complicated. It's very simplistic. And they have all the gadgets to help them in this task of cooking semi-nutritious meals. And so the vast majority of Italians now live, as did the priests, insofar that they have a very small circle of people that they associate with typically 3 to 4 people, at times maybe half a dozen people, and their social circle is not only very limited, the relations between people are also very superficial. And that poses another huge problem, because this also is unnatural to the basic psyche of human beings. It has to do with the breakdown of the family. And when there is no family, when a family means a couple, a man and woman who are married without children, or a couple who have only one child, and this child hasn't had a natural upbringing because he or she had very little or very few children to associate with in his or her initial 3 to 5 years. And this, of course, also has a huge impact on a person's psyche. So we are having unnatural people, or people who are living in an unnatural environment, bringing up children when they do, that are also living an unnatural existence. And that, of course, has long-term consequences on society. And that is why there is a breakdown of society that is not spoken about. So, getting back to the lady who owns the apartment that I stay in at the moment, she is an architect, and in countries that are demographically declining, there is usually an oversupply of architects, because there's simply not enough houses being built. There's just no need for them. And so typically these people work maybe on a project every 2 or 3 years, if they're lucky. Most of the time they do nothing. And that is basically what she does. She does nothing. And this is not only her, this is dozens of people in this city or this town, because this town has, as I said to you, a lot of people from outside the area. They chose to come here because it's an escape. It is an escape from reality, and they can live their lives here and associate with other people who also have escaped reality, because they refuse to acknowledge the fact that they're part of the problem, not part of the solution. And so they will come, they will purchase a house or a studio or a shop, and they will start a small business, which is a rental business or a shop, or they will just live here. You can't really own a car because there are cars, but there's very few parking spaces. But maybe some of them don't mind walking, so they'll buy a car and they'll buy a parking spot half a kilometer or a kilometer away, and they'll walk to their cars, which is fine. And what do they do? Well, what they do is they try to find meaning to their lives and pretend that this is a normal way of living life. So during the Halloween, and I'll upload a video of the Halloween party that went on in this beautiful town of Anguillara Sabazia. Tourists are gone, So we have peace and quiet again. And so during the Halloween, it started quite early in the daytime. It started at around 1 p.m. They had very loud music and very loud noises for Halloween. It sounded very odd, and these noises were scary noises. They were supposed to put people getting people into the Halloween spirit. So the entire small town was decorated with pumpkins and all types of scary features and accessories of Halloween. Probably during Christmas or Easter you don't find as many accessories relating to the day as was here on I think it was the 31st of October, so less than 2 weeks ago. And this was actually quite annoying, because from 1 p.m. until 6 p.m. when the activities actually started and people started streaming in, mostly families with children from outside the town, or bored old people that don't have much to do and want to see Halloween. So basically it was just a lot of noisy voices, noisy effects, scary effects. And they also transformed one of the shops into a house of horror. I didn't go in, but just looking from the outside, it seemed they had some skeletons and, just flashing lights and very, very loud voices of horror and screaming. And that's nice for children. That's okay. I mean, I'm sure the children enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with it, per se. But is that the meaning of life? Is that a basis for a society, for a country? I don't know. I really have question marks. I can't say yes or no. But I know that in reality, on the ground, it's not producing the results. And the results are continuation of a society that is dying away. So this is the end for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll speak in my next video about numbers. We've identified the Catholic Church as a major problem. The legacy that Catholicism has left. Here are another 2 old people, I suspect are also tourists. Yeah, I'll get back to you. Catch you later.